Saludos a todos. El día de hoy tengo el placer de poderles comunicar que la nueva marca KALFAX ha sido lanzada oficialmente como parte de las herramientas terapéuticas de la línea gastrointestinal para el tratamiento del síndrome de intestino irritable. Sin embargo, para poder comprender lo mejor posible, así como las aplicaciones y utilidades de esta nueva marca, es importante que nos tomemos un minuto de tiempo para recordar un poco acerca del concepto de meteorismo y su importancia en el síndrome de intestino irritable.
Due to gas. Now, gas in the gut can come from different sources. The 5 most common gases found in the gut are nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane. There are also trace amounts of other gases. We know that nearly all the nitrogen and oxygen in the upper part of the gut comes from the swallowing of air. Carbon dioxide in the gut can come from swallowing air, drinking carbonated beverages, or from diffusion from the bloodstream into the gut. Carbon dioxide can also be generated from the neutralization of acids and alkalis in the upper gut after eating. The most important process for gas production in the gut comes from the fermentation of foods in the colon by bacteria. Most carbohydrates in our diet, once broken down, can be absorbed through pumps on the surface of cells in your small intestine. But there are some carbohydrates that are incompletely or not digested at all within the small intestine and therefore can't be absorbed. These rapidly fermentable, short-chain carbohydrates that can't be digested in the small intestine are called FODMAPs. The presence of FODMAPs causes water to be dragged into the small intestine. FODMAPs arrive at the colon, and it's there that bacteria can utilize FODMAPs for energy to fuel the cells that line the colon. The colon bacteria rapidly ferment FODMAPs and produce gas. It is the excess gas production and water retention that causes the intestines to expand. We know that therefore the amount of the gas produced in the colon depends on the type and amount of bacteria in the colon, the speed of food moving through the intestines, and the types of foods being consumed. Now we know what causes gas production in the gut. It makes sense that avoiding some types of foods, such as these FODMAP foods, can reduce gas production and therefore bloating. But I have to say that gas production is not the only explanation for why a person can experience bloating. We know this because in studies of persons with irritable bowel syndrome, we find that they don't produce more intestinal gas than other persons who don't have bloating. This can happen because of impaired small bowel transit, where there can be a holdup of gas in the small bowel because of abnormal peristalsis. And we know that retention of gas can be due to the types of foods we eat. For example, fats classically can cause retention of gas in the first part of the small bowel. Additionally, some people can't evacuate gas very well, and that can result in retention of gas in the colon and therefore symptoms of bloating and abdominal pain. People suffering from functional chronic constipation are known to be less able to evacuate gas from the rectum and thus are much more likely to develop symptoms of abdominal distension. The gut is inside the abdomen, and if there is a change in the volume and pressure of the gut, then this is going to affect the abdomen. If the gaseous content of the gut increases, then the abdomen can expand. The diaphragm, which is that muscle under the lungs that separates the chest and abdomen and facilitates breathing, that can be pushed higher up into the chest or the abdominal pressure can increase. In healthy adults, we tend to contract the abdominal muscles, that is, stiffen the abdominal wall if there is increased gas in the gut. However, in some patients with bloating, they can do the opposite, that is, relax their abdominal wall muscles to accommodate this increase in volume. And this is what we call an abnormal viscerosomatic reflex. In particular, some muscle groups of the abdominal wall, such as the internal oblique muscles, are relaxed in these patients with bloating. And we find that the diaphragm descends, and that means the abdominal girth increases. A final important element in causing the symptoms of bloating is visceral hypersensitivity, When the intestinal wall stretches from distension, the highly connected nerves around the intestine send signals to the brain. People with IBS often have hypersensitivity, and this means that ordinary small changes in the volume of the gut can be perceived as bloating. Some very sensitive people might perceive the sensation of bloating without any volume change in the gut whatsoever. In fact, they can perceive bloating in response to normal contraction.
Como podemos observar, el meteorismo es un fenómeno ciertamente complejo y que está presente en muchas patologías gastrointestinales, incluyendo el síndrome de intestino irritable. Como solución a esta problemática, se han utilizado diversas sustancias. Una de las más conocidas y reconocidas es la simeticona, parte de los compuestos que contiene KALFAX. Recordemos, esta es una sustancia caracterizada por ser inerte a nivel biológico. Eso quiere decir que no sufre absorción y por ende tampoco metabolismo. Cumple su mecanismo de acción a nivel físico en el interior del líquido presente tanto en la cámara gástrica como en la luz intestinal. Y lo que hace básicamente es evitar la formación de burbujas y que éstas produzcan una situación de dolor y distensión de estas estructuras anatómicas.